Okay, so today we have Patricia Nielsen here. Oh my gosh, everybody, let's mute ourselves if we're not on. I hear a lot of background noise, not sure what it is. And okay, that's better. Patricia, I met probably a couple of decades ago, and she caused quite an impression on me. I think she's been in the business, looks like since 1987. And what I liked about her is that she's an investor, number one. Number two, she's just a fun lady and very charismatic, and I will say fashionable too. So Patricia, can you hear us out there? I'll unmute you. Too bad we can't see you because that would be a treat as well. Let's see if I can, there you go.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on, Patricia. Now, you have been an investor. Give us a little bit of a history on how long for. I know it's been quite some time. I also know that you're very active with the apartment association. So, you know, you're dealing a lot with tenant issues, landlord issues, and also with, you know, I know you are in constant contact with Steve Harlica, I think that's his name. I met or know of Steve since the 90s. Really great guy with dealing with evictions, quick and just awesome. So maybe also tell us a little bit about how to surround yourself with, you know, good people that are reputable, and also in the, you know, resources for our homes as well when it comes to fixing things, and you know, some people we can depend on.
Well, I didn't know I had this kind of task today, but I'll do the best I can. I started over 20 years ago investing for myself, and I started out with a duplex. I had the owner carry the paper, and I didn't look at it that I needed to get a return on my investment. I personally looked at it that it was going to be my retirement someday, my retirement income, and I was going to have the tenant make my payments towards my retirement fund. So that's how I viewed all the properties that I've bought, and I have bought about 8 properties.
Mm-hmm. And how many do you handle now? You said probably about 100 or over?
Yes, I manage over 100 properties, plus, you know, the ones that I own personally myself. One of the things that I've done, you touched on, who do you go to for repairs and stuff like that. Over the years, I've really dealt a lot with people that own their own business. For instance, you know, I have a plumber. I have big plumbers too, but then I have a specific plumber that I go to. The air conditioning guy that I use, my daily service man, etc. So I've built a personal rapport with people that own their own business. So I get really quick extra service from those people. I can text them, call them on a weekend, etc.
And I know over time you've also been have done a couple of exchanges, right?
I personally haven't done any exchanges. I've held on to all my own investment property. I've helped owners that I've managed do exchanges, but I've held on to all my own properties.
Very smart. And you know, you touched on something important right now. I'm working with an owner who I asked when we started, do you want to do an exchange on this property? You know, we're talking over $500,000. And he says, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'll be okay. And so anyway, get to closing, and I asked him again, so we're not doing an exchange on this property, correct? And he says, well, you know what? I think I better do that. And so that makes it a little tough to have to, you know, do everything last minute, but it's so important. And for us as agents too, to understand the importance of knowing how to get our clients to the, I sent him to Ron Ricard. So it's really important to make sure that we have the right resources for our clients as well, which, you know, is very valuable. And I think Tom would agree with that as well, you know, given his history. And I'm sure, you know, he too can attest to what you're saying, that surrounding yourself with the proper service people that are there to help us is really important.
I think the one thing that the mom and pop investor doesn't realize is that they have to recapture that depreciation, and that'll just knock them into the ballpark of paying tons of tax. So they just don't realize that up front because maybe they haven't seen their CPA or they're just not educated on it.
And go ahead, Tom, you just are working on your exchange now, right?
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, I sold the very first piece of property that I bought in '96, and I made an exchange on a kind of a townhouse out there at the Palisades on the corner of Brawley and Bullard that I bought. It should close in about 2 weeks. So I sold one for $255, and I bought one for, well, we started at $315, then it didn't appraise and they lowered it to $297. So, and I just took, I'm taking it as it is with that, taking that into consideration. But it saved me in taxes because of exactly what Patricia's talking about. My taxes on the gain would have been more than what I paid for the property at the very beginning. My taxes would have been around, somewhere between $70,000 to $75,000. So exchanging is a good thing. By the way, Patricia, you know, the beauty thing about being in this business for a long time is meeting friends along the way. And Patricia and I, we've known each other since the day she worked with Nancy Hall.
Oh my gosh.
And I hope Nancy's well. She and Tom. But anyway, I'm sorry I get started on a tangent, so I'm going to mute myself and listen.
Well, we like that information because I think as agents and you know, affiliates that are listening in, it gives them a little bit of a perspective as to, you know, how to successfully start. I know when I deal with a lot of buyers, they think I'm gonna just buy my forever home. And Patricia, I like what you say that you started with a duplex, and actually that's how I started as well. I think that's the connection that I saw with you. Is that, you know, you're living in a place where somebody else is really making the home mortgage for you, if you think about it, right?
Absolutely. One area that I just invested in about a year and a half ago is Riverstone. And I think that's going to be one of the most up and coming, you know, communities because of Fresno Community Hospital.
Riverstone. You know, that's very popular. Who's here from Riverstone?
Anybody else invest out there?
I thought Doug, no, not Doug. Who? I don't see them. I know that two of our members bought in Riverstone. Very, and I agree with you, especially with the new education center there for medicine. That's going to be big as well.
The other real plus that it has is right on the corner of 12 and 41. It's going to have a grocery store, which is one of the things lacking out at Harlan Ranch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Harlan Ranch, I remember, you know, it was way out there, and that you couldn't hardly sell the subdivision quickly enough. I think it took like a decade. And now you are, because everything was moving east and north, you do have quite a few people that are actually excited to move out there.
Right. One of the things about Riverstone is if you haven't been out there, you really should take advantage of at least looking out there. The dues, the homeowner association, and the swimming pool, and they have a place to rent bikes and everything else. It's just a plus. It's about $124 a month. And then the house I purchased was a little less than 1,800 square feet. You have to buy it with solar. Per my CPA said, lease it. And the solar lease is about $107 a month. So, and the house rents for $2,050 a month. I pay the solar and I pay the homeowner association.
You know, Patricia, and a lot of people think that a solar lease on a rental can be a negative thing, but I found also the opposite, because it can be a good saving a good savings for your tenant, well, they would appreciate it, because if you're at a, what did you say, about $100 a month,
About 107 is the solar.
the solar, and
And then the association's 124.
but look at all that you get. I mean, that's a lot of savings. So I haven't found a lot of negativity from buyers buying into something with a solar lease if they can see the savings there.
There are a lot of owners out there, I have several owners myself, where they charge the tenant for the lease payment. I don't do that, because I would just as soon raise the rent and make it a bundle, so I don't have to collect that difference every single month. And then I do the full write-off on it.
Patricia, too, one of the things you can find out there, and I commend you on your positive feeling of solar. I'm still in the dark ages. I think it's a pain in the butt. But there are houses out there that were sold before the beginning of this year, where solar was a requirement, that don't have solar. And on a resale, you probably, if you're watching the market pretty well, if solar happens to be a pain in your butt like it is mine, you can probably, you can pick up a resale house without solar and without the requirement of having solar on the house. Right, Patricia?
I'm not sure. I was told, I bought a DR Horton and I was told it had to have solar.
Oh,
Now,
yeah,
maybe
that was
that's the package that DR Horton had. Now,
No.
Go ahead.
All new houses as of January the 1st of this year had to have solar on the house. So they started doing it within the last quarter of last year in all new subdivisions. But prior to that, and thank God that particular subdivision out there was around before that point, some of the houses were built without solar. So there's some out there that don't have it. And certainly during ownership, it's nice. The only problem is when it comes time to resell, that solar company has a very, very, very strong hold on whether that escrow closes or not. Because that buyer has to be approved for the solar, or take a look at your contract and see what it's going to cost you to buy it out.
Right. I just sold a house on Emerson. I represented the seller.
Yeah.
And they had been paying on that solar for, I can't remember exactly, but maybe 15 plus years.
Oh my God.
There was still a balloon of 20,000.
Yeah.
So when I let everybody know that the buyer had to assume that balloon. So I didn't bring it up after the fact. I brought it up before, and it does take a while for the buyer to get, approved, but they did get approved, and the buyer assumed a $20,000 balloon.
Yeah. Well, I just sold a house out there. I think it was the latter part of last year, the first part of this year, that they were one of the first people that go out there. Had sold their house in Clovis and they bought out there, and they didn't have solar. So all of a sudden, from a competitive standpoint, I had a pricing advantage because I didn't have to deal with the negative aspect of that solar contract. So all houses in that particular development do not have solar. The older houses, I would say most of them don't. And that definitely is a sales advantage, in particular for we as investors. And I admire how Patricia has that she'll go out there and take that on. It's just that at sale, it can bite you.
That's very true. But I still think a lot of people are interested in solar. So we have some old timers and then some old timers.
And then some new too that think like old timers.
Yeah. I would just like to see the solar contract placed against the house as if it was a swimming pool. But for some unknown reason, the solar industry has chosen not to go down that path, and they've created quite an advantage of their leasing contracts But, and one of these days, who knows, maybe in my next 20 years of living, I might see some modification to the solar contract, but it can be a real pain in the butt at scale.
And Patricia, we touched a little bit about the savings, and Tom mentioned too how much he's saving by just doing an exchange. But the other thing about, you know, keeping rentals, and I like that that's what you have done instead of the flipping aspect of things that, you know, has become pretty popular in the last couple of years. But other things that that help with rentals, not only is it that you can write off certain things. I've known people that as a realtor, maybe they make, say, $350,000 a year, let's say, and they have no investments whatsoever. These guys probably end up paying close to $100,000 in taxes a year. And correct me if anyone out there is listening that finds that figure incorrect, but that's what I've seen, you know, as a general rule. Now, if you have someone making the same amount of money, and say you have even maybe 6 figures in rental income, and some of those may include a mortgage, you know, other expenses that you have, the depreciation, of course. And I mean, you're going to be paying probably 1/10 of that amount. Would you agree, Patricia, with that, and Tom?
Well, I'm gonna start deducting the insurance again. I'd rather do that.
The day that you become an investor is the day that you're taking on one of the most important aspects of your your economic future. You don't buy a house and then go wait for the rents to come in, and if they call you, send somebody over there to fix it. You have to stay on top of that all the time. As an example, that property that I just sold over on Andrews, that property had, you know, from a depreciation standpoint, from a lot of reasons, had reached the point that it was no longer in my best economic interest to hold it, because it was going to be in a positive. And, you know, that's kind of where I wanted anyway. The only problem, my wife still works, and my daughter, and I've got a couple other agents, thank God. So in a sense, I decided to improve the depreciation basis by going out to the Palisades with this. And I will still have as much positive cash flow, but I'll have a better depreciation base.
And then Art wanted to say something as well. And Art, I know that he also does accounting. So what do you think, Art, about that topic? Well, you have to unmute. Let me see if I can unmute you. For some reason, I cannot unmute you. You want to unmute yourself, Art?
There, I think so.
Okay, go ahead. We didn't hear you.
I honestly, I really didn't hear that. I stepped out. I had somebody.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. We were talking about how I was explaining how, say you have 2 agents. One is only commission based, and maybe they make $350,000 a year, but they probably will be paying $90,000 to $100,000 in taxes, if given they don't have any other expenses. But as a realtor investor, if you made that same amount and you have rentals, say even 6 figures in rentals a year, you probably will be paying about 10% of that.
Yeah, because like I said, if you have rentals, okay, if you have rentals, you know, you have a lot of, well, it depends on the expenses on there. If you have a lot of negative on there, that'll kind of lower down your taxable income there also. So,
well, I was looking at my Schedule E, and just the depreciation alone.
Yes, the depreciation brings it down. The depreciation brings it down, especially they had that bonus depreciation where you can depreciate up to 50%. You know, but that's like I said, everybody's situation is a little different. So I'm taking advantage of that. You know, that
and you sold your place in San Francisco, right? And Did you already do the exchange here?
I did an exchange. I bought some properties up in Merced
Mhm.
and then down in San Diego. And right now I'm going on another one here in the valley. And it will be the final one.
Mhm.
I have until for the identification, the ID already, I already identified them, and I got until November 29 to close everything.
So you sold in San Francisco for close to
Mhm.
$1 million, or was it like, what was the amount?
It was 899, I think it was
899, and you're buying
almost a million.
three properties. So
Mhm.
if you were not doing an exchange, what would your tax exposure be?
Oh, that would have been oh shoot, 350,000 capital gains,
So we can say you bought a home for free here then.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Well, if
Yeah.
anyone has any questions, please unmute yourselves and
Art, did you ever buy anything in Dinuba?
That's in the process right now. That one,
Okay.
and I got another one in here in Fresno.
Okay, very good. Congratulations. I'm happy
Yeah.
for you.
I'm stressing out. I want to make sure everything closes first. But yes,
yeah, doing an exchange when you're doing that many can be very stressful because
yes,
if anything goes wrong and you've already identified and you're past your identification period, you're done. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, that's true.
Carmen, I'd like to ask my dear friend Patricia a question in regards to property management. And I don't know if this is something that Patricia would entertain, but as an example, since we're living in this world of COVID-19, I have a relationship with a particular property manager where she knows I manage my own properties. However, when I have a vacancy for a specific fee that is normally related to the rental income, she will do all of the necessary legwork in getting that property rented, including drawing up the rental agreement. And then once that's done and they're in, I take it over at that point. Is that something you're doing, Patricia, or would entertain?
I do it for selective clients. I don't do the virtual tour. I actually talk to every single person. I do not use Craigslist. I use Zillow, Hotpads, etc. Of course, Zillow has just changed their platform, and it's $9.99, I think, a week for you to, use them. They've started something else where when the person inquires on Zillow, then the phone rings, and all of a sudden I pick the phone up and I go, "Hello, this is Patricia." And the people at the other end go, "This is going to be a recorded message. We have a Zillow lead for you." I hang up. I don't want to be recorded. And then I have that phone number and I can contact that person.
Okay.
It's very, very difficult lately. When I show property, because I won't rent unless I actually show the property. So I work with the tenant that's either in the house, or if it's vacant, I tell the people they cannot bring their children with them. Their hands have to be along their side. They can't touch anything. And I spray their hands before they enter. They do the PED form. And then I have a Clorox wipe, and I open or close anything for them. It takes me max about 12 minutes to walk them through the house. And then we go back outside.
You heard earlier from Patricia from the standpoint that she has her own people that she uses for repairs, and she uses these people consistently. Notice the one thing that she didn't say is, "I'll have them go out there and give me a bid." I have not gotten a bid from one of the contractors that I use in 15 years. I use the same electrician, the same plumber, I use the same handyman, I use whatever the trade is, it's the same roofer, and it is what it is. So don't waste your time driving back and forth, getting bids, unless of course you enjoy doing that. I personally don't, But no, I have not gotten a bid, and I can't remember when I've gotten a bid.
You're right, Tom, and part of it is, finding people that we trust and in the work that they do, and that they will, be fair. So I too have become that way with plumber. I have my plumber that I like to use. AC people, very, very important.
I totally agree with you. They're your best service to your clients, and then your clients, your tenants, et cetera, then they're very, very happy with the good, quick service that they get. That it's all about service.
And I see Henry there. Henry joined us, and he lives in Riverstone. It was him and John Thor, right? They live in Riverstone. So
Yes, John's my neighbor.
yeah. So that's a Patricia here from Guarantee. She's an investor for so many decades, and just a very savvy lady. She was telling us she just invested in Riverstone with D.R. Horton Homes.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and I didn't know, she just mentioned that they were going to have a grocery store built there. I didn't know that. Did you know that they're going to have a grocery store?
Yes, they are.
Wonderful. And how about you, Steve? I see you on here, and just wanting to know how is business treating you as far on the investor side, because I know that you were interested in that, or if you're dealing with investors, has that been going?
Yeah, I am a novice investor at best. So I've only got the one unit right now, and I have been very fortunate. They have not missed rent or anything else. I've reached out to them to have conversations with them when everything first hit, and let them know to reach out to me if anything did. So other than that, I'm just here, like usual, trying to pick up some knowledge. I mean, there's a great amount of wisdom in this group. And when I saw Patricia was going to be here, I had to go ahead and stop by.
Yeah, and you're so lucky you have her right in the office. Now, Patricia, let's see here. Steve brought up a good point. As far as your 100 units, do you have any issues with people not paying now because of COVID, or are you pretty much doing well?
I have all my people paying rent. I feel very, very fortunate. I'm in good communication. There's a couple of them where we've kind of spread it out just a little bit, but they're all paid up.
And that's good to hear. And I hear that from most people that I talk to. So that just shows that you probably vetted them pretty well.
I do vet them very, very well. Before I show any property, I vet them over the telephone.
Good. And Patricia, do you know what is those 2 forms that Gov talked that we should have given our tenants, which I probably haven't? Was it
AB 1482?
Which one again?
The AB 1482.
Okay. And there was another, right?
There's another one. For instance, if you think that at some point in time you're going to live in the property and you want to have that opportunity, that form is served. It should have been served by August the 1st. For instance, I have 2 sets of duplexes, so I fall under that. And so I did, give them to my tenants so that my tenants were aware of it. I told them at this time I have no intentions of living in the property, but I have 2 sets of duplexes. So on those, I still gave it to all 4 of those tenants.
That's pretty smart. And if we have not by the 1st, can we still do it now?
Not for current tenants, but I think you can for future tenants. It has to be a part of the contract for the future.
What was the form again for if you ever plan on living there?
I don't have I'm actually up at Shaver Lake right now, so I don't have the forms in front of me. But it's a very short form. I can certainly get it to you, but it talks about you having the opportunity to live in the property at some point, the owner of the property, or even a relative of the property.
Yeah, I think it's in Carr, right? That one's in Carr.
Yes, I pulled mine out of CAA.
Oh, okay. And Patricia, can you tell us, I know you're a part of the California Apartment Association. Now, what's the benefits to that? And I used to be, and I love the forms that they have. I think they have good education, and the forms are excellent, especially maybe the applications and some of the informational forms.
There's just so much knowledge to be gotten from the California Apartment House Association. So when I do my leases, I use CAR for the lease, but then I add a lot of forms that come out of CAA. And then there's just a ton of classes through California Apartment House Association. Matter of fact, today up at Shaver, we're going to put the TV on, and I have about 4 classes that I haven't seen. And Chad and I are going to sit and, watch these classes that I still haven't taken. So you can you purchase them as a member, and then you can watch them at your convenience.
And for those that don't know, Patricia, what is the cost to join the association?
I think I pay about $250 plus a year because I do always pay the political. I think the political makes all the difference in the world. And the other thing you get to do with CAA, you get to see a lot of things that are going to be coming up. Now, there's somebody at the state level that's trying to get on the ballot that homeowner associations will no longer be able to say no rentals, or they won't be able to cap and say, well, we're only going to have 3 rentals at this particular homeowner association. This particular bill, they want to say that every homeowner association has to accept an investor and a rental, and that they have no choice in it whatsoever. So CAA is going to really fight that. So my political dues are going to really go towards that. I'm sure, the California Association of Realtors is going to fight that one too. But that's a new one that just came out.
So that the HOAs can no longer say there are no rentals.
Correct.
Okay. So we do want rentals in HOA areas.
Well, you have a lot of homeowner associations, like where I live, and it says that you're grandfathered in, but in the future, it has to be owner occupied.
Okay.
And so what they're trying to say is the association can't do that. They're trying to get that put on the ballot.
Okay, yeah, and I like that because, it's just very difficult. I can see if someone comes in, especially with an HOA, they've had difficulty with Airbnbs, because of the constant coming and going, but a rental, I think that's a lot different, where you have a family that's in the subdivision and, they are abiding and, not a nuisance to the neighbors, that it's a positive thing that we can provide housing, for families that maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to be there.
Well, what our association's done is it says we only have 20 units where I live, and they're saying there can be 3 rentals because they don't want the entire place to become a rental or an investment market. I think that's fair, but this bill would say that that isn't fair.
I see. That's not good.
Well, Patricia, in regards to this bill, and thank you for bringing it up, and I had not heard about it, but it seems like every day or every week, we as investors or we as real estate owners are losing a certain amount of property rights that the state of California or the federal government, in particular the state of California, is going to tell us how we're going to handle our investment. Who we're going to rent to, as an example. There's also a bill that's been introduced that certain real estate that's on the market that you have to give a nonprofit the first right of refusal of purchase. Or any of you?
Yeah, that one died.
Oh, good.
So it may come back next year, but it did die about a week or week and a half ago.
Good, good, good.
I have, oh, go ahead, Tom. I have a question, Patricia. You had mentioned about using CAA, or actually using CAR forms for your lease agreements versus the CAA forms. I'm a fairly new investor. I have one unit that I've gotten through in my first year, but part of what I did is so I can gather more knowledge, and I didn't feel, to have a property manager just yet. I went ahead and joined CAA, and I saw a lot of the forms that they have, but I also am a realtor, have access to CAR forms. What would you see as using the CAR forms in presence of CAA forms?
I would have to actually look at the CAA form, to see. I have just gotten used to the CAR form.
I see.
And then the nice thing about using the forms from CAA is that, they cover you in different aspects that otherwise you wouldn't be covered.
Yeah, there are different things. That's on my project list to sit and look at the difference between the two, but I haven't had a chance to do that.
And go ahead, Tom, you were gonna.
Well, I was going to digress a bit. I think you had asked Patricia what her dues were to the California Apartment Association. One of the primary determination of what your dues are how many units you own. Example, I had 15 units, although when I got my last invoice, they had me down as 13 units. And my membership in CAA is higher than Patricia's. So it's tied to the number of units that you own at some point. You'll also discover when you attend meetings with your California Apartment Association, you're going to find yourself hearing and talking two different languages. The biggest majority of the people in the apartment association, in particular the real active people, own apartment houses. Most of our agent owns single family residence, which could very well have kind of a different approach to leasing and different responsibilities. Now, am I pretty much on target with that, Patricia, or what is your feel on that?
Yes, you are. There's a lot of, managers that come to the CAA, they have it about the luncheons and stuff like that.
Right. Well, it's a great organization, and I hope that anyone that heard what I just said is deterred from not joining. As an investor, you need to be a member of the California Apartment Association. You need to be. It's to your advantage. Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Hey, Patricia, I've got a question, if you don't mind answering, and take the fifth if you want. I'm sorry. I've got out-of-town investor, just bought a duplex, closes on it next week. He's asked me to give him a couple property managers. And so these are people I've dealt with a lot in the past with other investors. I guess first question is, are you looking for new business? I think you said earlier that you were selective on who you dealt with.
Is it a single family home or apartment?
It's a duplex.
I can do a duplex. I don't go beyond that anymore. And most of the things I manage are all single family homes.
Okay. So the question, and this is the one you don't have to answer, is what do you typically charge? And it sounds like you do a pretty good job at screening. And this guy is very, very, very conservative, almost to the point he said, I almost would rather have only Section 8 because I don't want to have any risk at all. And I'm telling him, well, there's risk with everything.
I don't have any Section 8 in my portfolio, but when someone calls and says, do you do Section 8? I say that the law requires that we look at all Section 8 people that are inquiring about the property. So most of my stuff is, well, nothing is Section 8. And the lowest rents are right, I have one couple of different duplexes and they're like $1,000 each. And everything goes up, you know, from that.
Okay.
Tricia, is
Well,
that for a 2-bedroom?
Yes.
In regards to Section 8, I bought a fourplex that Paul Hinkle had listed years ago over on Adeline. There was a young man that was living in one of the units in that fourplex that was Section 8. And at the end of his Section 8 contract, because, you know, to a certain extent, I felt somewhat like a lot of you do from the standpoint, I prefer not dealing with Section 8. But in any event, I decided when his contract was over, I was going to discontinue my involvement in Section 8. Well, I got a call from his mother. Thank God. His mother called me and she explained to me that her son had a certain neurological disease, and he had been in that place for so many years. That was his home, and she would like to have me reconsider dealing with Section 8, of which I said, okay. I got to tell you, that tenant, and I've owned that place 15 years, has never been late. Section 8 has never been a problem. And it's worked out. But I've had as high as maybe 3 or 4 at one time. And I don't recall having a negative experience. Maybe some of you have. But that rent is automatically deposited into my rental account every month on the same day. And if the tenant owes anything extra, which this particular tenant pays $35, and Section 8's aware of it, it works out very well. So if you aren't using Section 8, revisit it, take a look at it. You might see that it can be to your advantage or can help you.
Excuse me. I have a property that I've had it on Section 8, just like similar to what you have, Tom, but I've had it since 2008. And I've never had no problems. The city, you know, they pay automatically every month, deposit into the account. And the tenant, all she pays is just $200 a month. And like I said, since 2008, never had a problem with Section 8. We do our every 6 months or yearly inspections. And she's out there and calls me and panicking because she's got to get it ready. She's got to get it all cleaned, everything up and all that. And even little items. She said, oh, I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to fix that. That's no problem. I'll take care of it. She's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure it passes the inspection. So, you know, I've never had no problems. I've heard stories from other people on Section 8, but the thing is this, it depends what they created.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's my spill on Section 8.
Great.
No problems with me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the way you vet people, you're going to have good and bad in everything. And, you know, it's not a negative experience. You know, like anything else, some people will have that even with non-Section 8 tenants. But what I've heard and I like that I keep hearing is that, you know, most of everyone that has rentals, you know, doesn't have any issue with, knock on wood, with late payments or people not paying during this time. So that's a positive thing. And I think it tells us a little bit about our area that, you know, we're on such high demand for rentals that tenants appreciate that and they will stay faithful and, you know, pay on time. So that's good. And hopefully everybody is healthy and doing positive things.
Yes.
From an investment standpoint, Vasily came into the office a couple of days ago and he brought some very disturbing news with him. Vasily and possibly some of the others, you others might be aware of this. How many active listings do we have in the city of Fresno and city of Clovis right now?
385.
How much?
I think as of a couple of days ago, The single family homes was 385,000. Or
380.
385 homes, sorry.
Think about that. 385.
Yeah, that is definitely a shortage if we've ever had one.
One of the other things too that I wanted to bring up, last night, in fact, Ashley just did a list in the Northeast, and she got a call from an agent that wanted to show it, and she sent over the PED form. Well, lo and behold, this agent brought in 6 people. I can promise you there's not going to be 6 people on the purchase contract. There's going to be 2. There's going to be the buyer, man and his wife, or just a single individual. There's not going to be 6 people. My suggestion to you is caution you in the days of COVID-19, allowing an agent to bring in 6 people is unconscionable. So I had to go back in and change her listing agreement that says no more than the agent and the 2 people buying the house are allowed in the house for viewing the property. I don't know how you feel about that, but I mean, my client called and said, get them out of our house. And the sellers are both lawyers. So we got them out of our house.
Patricia,
Tom?
do you want to comment on that?
Well, I have the same thing, you know, showing listings or showing rentals where they want to bring everybody. So I tell them right up front that it can only be 2 people. And I had one couple say, well, we have to bring our children with us. And I said,
No.
well, then the children will have to stay out in the car. And I said, I'm willing to bring one in at a time and then the other one, but the children cannot see the house. You know.
You're very kind, Patricia, because I got to tell you something. Kids don't buy houses.
Right.
And all kids can bring to the situation is a potential problem. So,
Touching everything.
right, they're going to be touching all the doorknobs and opening and closing and all the, leave the mother and father are out trying to find a house for them to live in. And believe you me, the kids are going to sleep wherever the house they buy regardless. You know, they're going to be part of the equation. Leave the kid emotions with their parents and leave it at the doorstep.
Right. The other thing that I require when I show a rental is that both the people that are going to be on the contract have to view it at the same time.
Great.
I don't do double showings. And I get some, you know, pushback on that. And I just tell them, tell me what will accommodate your schedule and I will accommodate your schedule, but I must show you both at the same time.
That is very wise. And I think as realtors, we should do that on anything we show, whether it's sales as well, because
Right.
there's no reason that we need to be out there with one person, especially in these times, and then have to have a spouse come back at a later time. Just
Right.
not the
And
time.
so many times I have the wife go, but I make all the decisions. And I go, well, that's wonderful. But both of you will be on the contract and therefore both of you must see the property.
Yep. Hey, Patricia, I've got a triplex under contract and the seller has not been willing to let us do our inspections. Well, she's made it, okay, you can do your inspection Saturday morning between 10 and 11 kind of thing. And I don't have a home inspector or a pest inspector who really wants to work on a Saturday. And I'm thinking we're well within our rights to say, okay, seller, 24-hour notice. We're going to abide by all coronavirus. We're going to be very clean. We're going to wear masks. Our inspectors know what they're doing, but it seems to me, I mean, during this time, how do you address this issue where inspections need to be done?
I guess one of the things that I always think about is compromise, but I think as a realtor, you know, once you put the realtor hat on, you know, life is about a compromise. I would probably serve a 24-hour notice and ask her to respond to it. And I would give her 3 different times on that day that they would accommodate it. So that you're showing, or give her 2 different times, but give her a choice in it. And sometimes what happens is that they feel like I won. And I hate to say that, but that's what it just ends up being, that it's this tug of war that goes on.
The one of the suspect, or one of the things we suspect, is that one of the tenants really doesn't want anybody in their house and it's not a COVID issue. They really don't want anybody else in their apartment.
Right.
The pushback we're getting.
Right.
The other thing is on units, it's difficult during the week because people may be out or working, or children don't, maybe there. So a Saturday morning, I don't think that's inappropriate for that many units. That's my opinion. But it is difficult with so many units to have things happen during the week.
And I'm open to hear from a home inspector that works on a Saturday morning. If you have one, let me know.
Some do. Let's see. Any other questions for Patricia regarding rentals or issues? Patricia, I have one I was almost going to forget about. With Steve there, I know he represents the association. How quick, I know he used to be very fast on the evictions. I know there's still a moratorium, right, till September 30th on those?
Yeah, and it looks like it may even go longer than that. But I know Steve's pulling his hair out about it.
I don't know how he's made it this long in the business, but I know he does have a really good team of people that work with him.
He does. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with Hygo, but she's been with him forever and ever. Because usually Steve is very difficult to get to, but it's, Hygo and the other staff, Laura, that are really, really great to work with. And they're extremely knowledgeable, extremely.
Mm-hmm. But are they still, once this is over, is he still getting those things done in 45 to 60 days?
I think he will be able to. I do know that if it's I talked to him just the other day, and I do know that on certain things he is still able to evict, but it's got to be a really grave thing for him to be able to do it. Like it's got to be like a health or a safety issue.
Okay. Any other questions on this topic? No. Paul?
Yes.
Oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
do. I don't know if I heard Patricia's answer on this, and I'd certainly be very interested. Would you be interested in helping other investors find a replacement tenant and do their own managing?
Yes, but I'm on a selective basis, okay? So I'm not looking, I hate to say it, I'm not looking at going downtown Fresno or something like that, but I am happy to help.
Okay.
And Patricia, you brought up just now a really excellent point, so being selective. And I like that point because, even as a realtor, one thing that I focused on early on was not to be dependent on a paycheck in order to make a living. So the idea of becoming an investor really grew on me that way, the independence of it. And so, that for us creates a positivity in our life, our work, the way we think about things, where every month you're getting this, whatever it may be, $10,000, or I have some clients that, they probably own maybe 250 units. So that's a hefty amount of money to receive, and I can tell that they're happy people. So I think that creates into them making choices, or as a realtor, where you have clients, buyers, maybe sellers that sometimes you find difficult, or you feel they're going to be a little bit of a negative, negative on my business, on my way of thinking, you don't have to take them on.
Right. There are some owners out there that I have run into that they want to collect the rents, but they don't want to fix anything. well, I pride myself on, having good properties and having good properties for people to rent. So I would not keep an owner that wouldn't be willing to, take care of property.
Yeah, that's a definite, I agree with that. Definitely like that. This brings me to another point. I have a transaction where I represent a buyer, and the seller, we did ask, is there any issues or anything like that? And they did have the safety-based health inspection from the city. And they said, oh no, everything is fine, there's no issues. Well, what it was is the city, because of COVID, had not been doing re-inspections. They waived those. What it was now, the seller can correct the items and then send those pictures in to the city, right? But that had not been done. And this is going months in that it had not happened. So obviously we wanted to make sure those were all corrected before the closing happened. But, how easy can it be? Get those things done. There's no re-inspections. They're not even charging fees, late fees or anything right now because of COVID, because the housing authorities are not getting out there anymore.
So your buyer's wondering, have those items been done?
No, we did get a list. If you're in a situation like that, you can call the housing authority and they'll give you the list. So we were able to get that list and find out and address those issues. But as sellers, they may think, well, the city is not coming back, not doing re-inspections. But my thought process is, if I own a building and I have a list of items to be corrected, I'm responsible and I should get those corrected. And
absolutely,
people feel that, oh, they don't need to do that. I know it's not part of the condition of sale, but I think it's an appropriate thing for a buyer to expect to be done.
Definitely. And besides, it probably should have been on they should have already disclosed that they had an inspection and those items were done on their SPQ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that wasn't disclosed. And when it's commercial, we don't use the same.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
When it's over 5 units, that's not addressed. So the thing I've told all my clients is, if they're investors, call code enforcement. Make sure on your own that there's no situation. If I call code enforcement, I may have someone that misses a file. If they call, at least they hear it personally, that, what's the current situation on the property.
Right.
I'm glad that Patricia's here, because see, what I want to ask we investors, what is your definition of what your responsibility is as an investor? You, let's say, have paid an average of $200,000 a door for your investment, and you sit back and you wait on somebody to tell you there's a problem in one of your investments. Have you ever heard of going out there yourself and checking these units yourself from time to time to make certain that they're safe? The smoke detector's working, the carbon monoxide detector's working. And now, I don't know if you're aware, but there is, in the city of Fresno, any units, I think it's up to 6 units, must have a not a carbon monoxide, but a
fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher in every unit. And it's checked every year, and you pay for that checking. But the one thing that I don't want we investors to do is wait on somebody else to tell us when there's a problem in one of our units.
Yeah, and Tom, I think that happened a lot too with maybe investors that don't live here, and some of them never have visited those units. And I've sold some units for buyers where, when we went to look at the property, I cannot believe the conditions of the properties, and these are through rental management companies. I mean, they're in terrible shape. Either they never go and take a look at the properties, but I was just appalled by the conditions of some of the properties. Even on Section 8, I've sold many properties that have had Section 8, and I know they have yearly inspections or semi-annual inspections. I don't know how some of those pass those inspections, to be honest.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Great.
Now, if no other questions about this, Paul had a couple of bills he wanted to go over. So we had such a thriving conversation. It's now 9:42. I'm going to share those with you on the screen.
Can I ask Tom a quick question? I'm sorry,
Yeah, go
I need
ahead.
to ask this and then I need to bolt. Tom, I've got a couple that have several investment properties and they're north of 80. They're probably 84, 85 respectively. They would like to sell the properties and they've talked about exchanging into something that's newer so they don't have the maintenance issue. And last night the husband brought up DSTs. And I don't know if you've had any experience or what your thoughts are. Again, this is an elderly couple. They have heirs, but they don't want to pay taxes. They want to stay in real estate, but they don't want the maintenance. So would you consider a DST a good investment for somebody who's in their 80s?
What did you call that investment?
Delaware Statutory Trust.
You know, I've never been involved with that, and typically, to my understanding of what that Delaware Statutory Trust is, more an investment from the standpoint of taxation. But just exactly so, anything I say about that would be simply guessing. I've never.
Okay. I know Patrick Furlong has done something, Roger, I know is up to speed on them. I may reach out to them. I thought I would ask that question of you though. Okay, that was my burning question. Thanks for letting me steal the show.
Thank you.
For a second.
I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Paul, enlighten us with these bills that we have. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, first I'd like to talk about, I believe you guys were talking about AB 1703, which is the bill that would require rental owners to give nonprofits first right of refusal in sale. And that bill still is alive.
It is?
Yes, it is. It is being amended. It's being pushed forward under the radar. They're not letting the public know what's going on, but that bill still is out there. And if those that don't know what it is, right of first offer is being pushed as a proactive step to prevent home losses to the speculative market by giving tenants and community organizations the right to make first offer on renter-occupied homes and apartments. A qualified organization would have 10 days to notify a property owner of their interest to purchase a property and then have, depending on the number of units on the property, 40 to 60 days to submit an offer to purchase. So what that is saying is that you can't accept an offer on your property for 10 days because you have to give these organizations time to look at it and decide if they're interested.
How do you know who these organizations are?
Well, it's the home foundations that cities have. There's different groups out there. They're nonprofits. So you have to wait 10 days to see if any of those happen to spill across your desk.
I know of one investor who currently has a nonprofit because it gives him priority to buy distressed properties. So this would be one step further. Instead of distressed, it'd be the whole market, the investment market.
Correct. Yeah, and then once they notify you, yeah, I'm going to make an offer on it, they have 40 to 60 days to submit that offer. So your house is held out there now 40 to 60 days, depending on the number of units. If the property owner accepts an offer for a property containing 2 to 4 units, the qualified organization will have 90 days after the contract date to secure funding. With a property owner selling a property containing more than 4 units, a qualified organization will have 180 and 20 days to secure funding. Even then, a qualified organization can not guarantee that they will secure funding. So you're out there now in another 120 days. AB 1703 could delay the closing of a deal up to 8 months, and that there are many points throughout the process where the deal could go sideways and put property owner back on square one. They're basically held in limbo for all this period of time. Meanwhile, these qualified organizations can fire off these offers in mass and bog down the market because there is no limit to the amount of expression of interest that they have. Everyone is on the sidelines and waiting for these guys on their timetable to decide if they want to express interest or not.
And this also, Paul, does this also pertain to single-family homes?
If it's a rental home,
If you currently use a rental home, it falls.
under this.
Okay.
Now,
So
the thing to
isn't
do would be move into your house or have a family member move into the house before you sell it. But anyway, this is still there. It's being amended and stuff because there is some people against it, a lot of people against it, but they're trying to amend it and trying to push it through behind the radar. So keep your eyes on it. If you see anything with come up, any talk about AB 1703, stop and read it and find out what's going on.
Yeah, what surprises me, thankfully we have you, but all these bills that just pop up and get through without any knowledge, you know, it's incredible.
Yes, there's supposedly 200 remaining bills that affect real estate that are in committee.
Well, that probably tells us that, you know, monies are needed and they know that they can get it from real estate.
Right, right. Well, there's a lot of reason behind this particular one that they feel that people have been abused and left out and not able to purchase anything. Anything they can do to make it affordable, that they're going to do it, no matter what the costs are to the owners or other people.
But the owners, we can set the prices, right, on our property, and then they can make an offer?
Correct. You can set the price, but then they can, you know, do the offer on it. But you have to wait 10 days before you can accept any offer, because you have to wait for them to get back to you whether or not they're interested or not. Okay.
And that can actually work on an opposite direction where you wait the 10 days and you have buyers waiting to buy your home, may actually increase the prices of the home. But we don't want to take those chances, and you know, time is money sometimes. That can prolong things if somebody gets in there and it takes that long of a period of time to process things.
Well, the 10 days is only for them to say, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they call you and say, I'm interested, they don't have to give you an offer from 40 or 60 days.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So by then, people have moved on and bought something else.
Paul, from the standpoint, does that have any teeth in it? Let's say you don't do it and you sell the property to somebody else. What happens?
I haven't heard on what the consequences are, but I'm sure there could be lawsuits the way it looks to me, because this would become law and you're breaking the law.
God forbid.
And the only way you're not going to be breaking the law is if you're the one in Sacramento writing them. Laws don't pertain to you.
There you go.
As you guys know, SB 50 died, but it's still out there, and these bills I'm going to talk about has pieces of SB 50 strewn through them. So they're trying to get SB 50 passed, but through a bunch of bills instead of one major bill that was thrown out.
What is that?
SB 50 would ban single-family zoning and would allow 10 units, luxury apartments on any block. And apartments several stories high in low density communities. So the lot next to you, Tom, if it was vacant, I could put 10 units on it. So that is being infiltrated through all the rest of these bills. First one is you can, on this sheet that, this paper that Carmen has on the screen, if she would email this out to everybody, it has where you can go to fight these bills and to let people know that you're against them. But to start off with, I'm sorry? AB 1120 allows 4 market rate homes where 1 home now stands. It allows 8 units in cities that have city granny flat laws, requires no affordability, opens California to speculation frenzy. But, and I've talked about this before, single family lots are going away, and this will allow 4 market rate homes on the lot next to you, Tom. SB 902 allows a majority on any city council to overturn voter-approved ballot measures that protect open space, shorelines, and other lands. It's killing a 108-year-old California voter right and allows any city council to rezone any parcel to 10-unit luxury apartments, overriding all other zoning, inviting upheaval in older diverse multifamily areas, requires no affordability, and opens California again to speculation. SB 995. This phony housing bill actually rewards huge $15 million commercial projects with housing stuck on the side or on top of while enriching commercial development. It requires only 15% of the housing units to be affordable, and it weakens the CEQA, which is the environmental process. AB 1085, this bill was substantially amended in July, on July 29 in the Assembly Housing Committee after Livable California and many groups criticized for cutting in half the legislature's commitment to affordable housing in a density project. Let's see, AB 725, a severe threat to 400 plus cities who have attracted enough housing to hit state-ordered growth targets known as RHNA. AB 725 brings density and upheaval to low-density areas whose residents have never even heard of RHNA and was once a helpful growth forecasting tool. Now it's used as a weapon to force density on communities. RHNA is regional housing needs allocations. You hear that a lot now in everything. AB 1279, a year after this law, after this bill becomes law, a committee would identify streets as opportunity areas where 50 units to 120 unit apartments could be built, ignoring zoning and long as affordable units are included, or developers can pay woefully insufficient in lieu fees to avoid building affordable housing, and then build 10 luxury units on a single family lot in low density street in these areas, unsuspecting areas, all without a single hearing. Again, this committee is put together by who? Those in Sacramento. AB 2345 allows developers to add 50% in density bonus size to a building if they agree to provide more affordable housing units than required under density bonus. To create these huge buildings, developers can ignore city controls on size, parking, setback, side yards, trees, and other standards. AB 3040 is a Sophia's choice. Cities comply with AB 40 by sacrificing single-family homes older than 15 years. Think South LA, East LA, and diverse older suburbs to satisfy state growth dictates known as RHNA, or cities can refuse to comply and try to meet these growth dictates by relying on the state density bonus program, stay with uses, or excuse me. Unfortunately, the density bonus program is a failure, preventing cities from approving even close to the number of affordable units required by RHNA. Over 400 out of the 482 cities won't make the RHNA target. When cities fail, a diverse and punitive law called SB 35 will let developers ignore many local rules to build as many as they wish. And the last one, AB 1307, wreaks havoc by allowing apartment towers where cafes, shops, and businesses now stand, even if apartments are adjacent to homes. New home towers will contain 20% affordable units. Each city faces a different fate. The bill arbitrarily allows height that match the tallest height allowed in any commercial or residential area up to a half mile away. In LA, it means 9-story apartments citywide. In Inglewood, 75 feet would be allowed. In Manhattan Beach, it wipes out a residential 30-foot height limit and allows 99 feet. That's the bills that I have so far that I'm following. But I'll keep you up to date on what's happening.
Yeah, I'll send everyone the list. I'll send everyone the list. And, you know, in talking about these, it sounds like a monstrosity that you can build anything, but I was just thinking about Pinedale. In driving through, I see so much inconsistency with our architecture and structures, you know, the height of the buildings. It's just incredible. I've talked to some people that live out there, and maybe they have units that have come up behind them, and they, you know, feeling uncomfortable because you have a house and then you have, I don't know what that one building is. I think it's a 4 or 6-plex right there off of Ingram on that corner. But I'll send everyone this list. Any other comments on that?
Well, it's definitely, you can see it's Manhattan style living in California.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going toward. There are 2 bills out there also to get rid of planning commissions within the next 2 years. And there's one bill out there that they're trying to get rid of city councils in the planning phase and within 5 years. So keep your eyes and ears going.
Well, thanks for sharing those. Tom, any last minute remarks?
Well, I would say that we as investors, in particular in the state of California, let's don't give up the ship just yet. Although when you hear all these things that are going on that are really going to be kind of havoc to our lives, let's just hope that in the end, cooler heads prevail, and that we as investors continue to achieve what our primary purpose was at the very beginning, to invest, as most all of us should. Never forget who your best client is. But in any event, you know, you hear all this stuff, and I know what Paul says is true, because although I can guarantee you, no, I am not going to say what I was about to say about what I'm going to do with new listings. But let's just hope that if we're faced with some of this stuff, it's minimal. But I certainly wanted to thank my dear friend Patricia, because I hadn't seen her and talked to her in a long time. Did you say that Nancy was well, Patricia?
You know, I don't know.
How about that? Tom died, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Patricia, thanks so much for joining us. The information that you shared with us is invaluable, and I think real helpful to everyone that is looking to invest, is investing, or that we have clients that are investing, and how best to, you know, deal with them and help. So we appreciate that, and you're welcome to come back anytime. Enjoy your favor, though. What's the temperature right now?
Up here? Oh, it was 50 this morning. I'd have to go downstairs to look, but I think it's probably maybe 62 right now.
Oh, what a shame.
Probably need a jacket.
You know,
Oh, yes, you did need a jacket this morning. It's absolutely gorgeous up here. Blue sky.
You know, Tom, one thing that we might do in working with our clients, if they're buying a piece of property that is near vacant lots or development, shopping centers, whatever, have them really look around and see if anything was to happen to those, if it would affect their purchase of the property. Because shopping centers, especially the big ones like Sierra Vista, Fashion Fair, they're being turned into housing, some of the enclosed shopping centers. So they need to look at all the things around their house that they're thinking about purchasing, and if those were to change, would that change their feelings of purchasing that piece of property?
True.
And Paul, what about that elder care facility over by Willow and Knees? When is that getting started?
Thank you.
I don't know. I haven't heard. Of course, it's been approved. They've got another year before they really have to break ground on it.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being here. It's such a good meeting, good information. Next week, we're going to have Michael Zuber. Do you guys remember Michael Zuber? He wrote One Rental at a Time, and he came in from the software company, Corporate America, and decided to just go into investing. A very bright guy. I first met him when he bought some units that I was selling a couple years ago. But, you know, just real positive guy with investing. And I think Tom, Jason Pritchard is going to maybe join us next week. And, you know, young guy that was big into flipping. And now he's learned that probably good to keep properties. So he's going to discuss, you know, what he's been doing and, you know, any changes in the thought process from last time we spoke to him.
He's a superstar. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's very nice, very positive. And I think that's what I'm seeing. A lot of people that invest are very positive people, very, you know, happy people. Aside from me, though, I'm kind of quiet, so I'll be the exception. But thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Seeing you.
You too. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.